When's the last time you sat in silence and didn't feel the need to fill the silence? No music, no scrolling, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. And for a lot of people, that's uncomfortable. But what if I told you your ability to be alone and still be at peace is one of the most powerful things you could ever develop? We live in a world that tells you to constantly stay distracted. Always be entertained, always be connected, always be around people. Because the moment things get quiet, you're forced to face yourself. And most people aren't ready for that, so they just avoid it. They fill every moment with noise, just so they don't have to sit in their own presence. But there's a different type of person. The one that learns to be alone without feeling lonely. And that's the level we're talking about today. Silence reveals who you really are. When things get quiet, there's nowhere to hide. No conversations to distract you. No outside opinions to influence you. No noise to cancel out your thoughts. It's just you. And in that space, you start to notice things. How you talk to yourself, how you actually feel, what you've been avoiding. And that can be uncomfortable at first because silence doesn't lie. It exposes everything. But if you stay there long enough, you stop running from yourself and start to understand yourself. When you're constantly surrounded by people, it's easy to rely on them for their presence, for their opinion, for their validation. But when you spend time alone, you start to learn how to depend on yourself. You make decisions without needing approval. You figure things out without needing constant guidance. You become your own support system. And over time, confidence builds. Not the loud kind, the quiet and unshakable kind. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Loneliness versus solitude. A lot of people confuse being alone with being lonely, and they are not the same. Loneliness is like when something's missing. Solitude is when everything is present. Loneliness is when you're uncomfortable with yourself. Solitude is when you enjoy it. And the difference is your relationship with yourself. If you don't like being alone, it's usually because you haven't built that relationship yet. And that's not something to be ashamed of. It just means that there's work to do. When you're not comfortable being alone, you look for people to fill that space, to reassure you, to distract you, to make you feel okay. But once you learn to sit with yourself, you don't need that anymore. You still value people, but you don't depend on them. You don't need constant attention to feel secure. You don't need approval to feel confident because you've already given that to yourself. There's something about quiet moments that clears your mind. When you're not being pulled in 100 different directions, you can actually sit and think. You can reflect, you can process, and you can plan. And that clarity, that's powerful because now you're not just reacting to life. You're moving with intention. You're making decisions based off of what you want, not what everyone else expects. You begin to be a little bit more selective on who you let in. When you truly enjoy your own company, your standards change because now someone else's presence has to be better than your own solitude. And that's a high standard. You're not just letting people in because you don't want to be alone. You're choosing people who actually bring value to your life. And that naturally protects your peace. So let's be honest, being alone isn't always easy. There will be moments where it feels quiet, almost too quiet. Moments where you wish you had someone to talk to. Moments where you question everything. But those moments, that's part of the process because that's where growth happens, not in constant noise, but in stillness. Let's look at this in a deeper meaning. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are the ones that have learned to be able to stand alone. Not because they had no choice, but because they made peace with it. They stopped chasing distractions. They stopped fearing silence. They stopped chasing the crowd to feel whole. And in that space, they found themselves. So being comfortable in your own silence is not about isolating yourself from the entire world. It's about building a relationship with yourself that doesn't require constant noise in order to survive. It's about knowing that even if no one else is around, you're good. You're still grounded and you're still whole. So the next time things get quiet, don't rush to fill it. Sit in it, listen to it, learn from it. Because in that silence is where you're going to learn strength. And once you're comfortable being alone, you'll realize you were never missing anything in the first place. See you in the next one.